Welcome, welcome to the Martin Luther King Memorial Library. My name is Warren Williams. I'm Director of Music Education at the Kennedy Center. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to this event, Washington National Opera's Let's Go There, Fidelio and Freedom. How many people are familiar with the story of Beethoven's Fidelio, the opera? Yeah, some people have seen it. So the story centers around a political prisoner who was unjustly incarcerated by a political opponent. And his wife dresses up as a man, gets into the system, to work the system in an effort to get to the bottom of what's going on and also to help be a part of freeing her husband. And so this also is taking place during a lot of political upheaval in which you just have to go see the opera to see how it all magically comes together. But it's a beautiful story of love and freedom and the power of love to conquer injustice. So, ironically enough, we have some beautiful panelists that we've invited who are going to share a little bit of their personal connections to the themes in Fidelio. I will allow our moderator to introduce our panelists, but before that, I would like to introduce cast members from the opera itself. We have Chasmin Williams Ali, the acclaimed tenor from St. Louis, who is going to completely blow you away with some beautiful music from the opera. Now, Chaz and I talked. It's in German, right? So Chaz is going to explain a little bit and give a little bit of context on what he's singing in English and what is happening in the opera with his particular selection. And he will be accompanied by Michael Baitzer, who is the head of the music staff at the Washington National Opera. So without further ado, let's introduce and give a warm welcome to Chasmin Williams Ali and Michael Baitzer.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for having us. We're super excited to be here. We're just going to give a quick rundown because I think that was a pretty nice and succinct Fidelio introduction. But this aria is when we, the audience, first get to meet Florestan, who is the prisoner. Leonora is the name of his wife, and she dresses up as a man called Fidelio, so that's where we get the name Fidelio. But this is Florestan. He's been in prison in this production for about a year. It's really kind of an unnamed time, but he's been in prison for a long time, and he's in more of a political prison than he is for like a criminal act, because he really didn't do anything wrong. And this aria, it begins with him talking about how dark it is in this prison. The opening line is, God, how dark it is in here. You know, there's no light in here. And then he sings about how in days past, all of his luck has gone away, and he stood up for truth, and what he got in return are these chains. And then he kind of laments his situation until he gets inspiration, and you can hear it in the music. We go to this beautiful F major, and he starts to feel the presence and feel the energy and feel the inspiration of his wife, Leonora, and he starts to sing how she is his angel and she is his light, and how für mich zu Freiheit, like it's so happy, and how she's coming from heaven for him. And he doesn't know that she's on her way. Spoiler, she's on her way. And I think the cool thing, if you do go see the production, which I think you should, there's a fun little note that when he sings Leonora, that's actually the first time we hear her real name in the entire piece. Everyone in the first act calls her Fidelio, Fidelio, Fidelio. But this is the first time that you hear her name, Leonora, and it comes from him. And then we find out later that Fidelio is her. So this is Gott, welch Dunkel hier.
Michael, Jasmine Williams Ali from the cast of Fidelio, who's also one of a former Washington National Opera Capefort's young artists. So trained with the WNO and continuing to do amazing work. Let's give them another hand. And now, I would like to introduce our moderator, who will then bring on our panelists. She's a superstar, Nkechi Taifa. She is an activist, she's a lawyer, social justice superwoman, author. I'm sure I'm skipping the multi-hyphenates. The Washington National Opera has been working with Nkechi for a number of years. We worked with Nkechi to really mobilize the community around our presentation of Washington National Opera's Blue, which dealt with issues of community and with police and injustices there. And she got her justice roundtable together, and we called on her for Fidelio because we saw these themes that we thought we could connect even more broadly to some contemporary issues. So Nkechi got to work, and she will tell you who she assembled for this wonderful panel, this wonderful discussion. Without further ado, let's give a warm applause to Nkechi Taifa.
All right, so thank you so very much, Warren Williams, Director of Music Education at the Washington National Opera. Thank you, Kennedy Center, for its diligence in ensuring optimum community engagement for the operas that you bring to the big stage. I was indeed thrilled and honored to work with you on Blue about the police killing of a young black man, and ecstatic as well to be of service with respect to Fidelio, about a political prisoner. You all know anything about me. All of these are issues that are part of my advocacy, and hopefully we can find other avenues, operas for partnership. And I would like to give a special shout out, she's not able to be here today, to Francesca Zambello, the artistic director at Opera House, who expertly brought Beethoven's only opera Fidelio to life. And I really mean brought it to life. You all heard Jasmine Williams Ali right there. And yeah, it was German, but you know what? The way operas are today, they have little subtitles up there on the big screen, so you know exactly what it's saying. You have all of the gravitas of the action and the movement and the sounds and the light and the camera and the action. And let me just tell you, I have grown to become a lover of opera from someone who never ever went to an opera before. So again, I really appreciate this opportunity. So the Kennedy Center's Washington National Opera Let's Go There series uses opera as a lens through which to view contemporary issues, and it highlights topics that challenge us and demands wrestling with and engaging in meaningful conversations that facilitate greater understanding. So, as you already heard, Beethoven's Fidelio, the character, Florestan, suffers unjust political imprisonment, and his devoted wife, as you heard, impersonates a guard, Fidelio, in her dramatic quest to secure his freedom. And we are going to explore some of these themes of freedom and imprisonment with this powerful panel who I'm honored to introduce at this time. First, Fox and Bob, okay. Let me say, when helping to vision what this panel was going to be, I thought, who better to feature than a couple whose story resonates so very strongly with that of Fidelio. No, the white fox did not disguise herself as a prison guard to free her husband Bob from Angola state prison, unjust imprisonment. But her love, her devotion, her endless fight to free him resulted in his release from 21 years, after 21 years in prison as a first-time offender. So Fox Rich and Robert Richardson, the couple best known as Fox and Bob. If you've heard of them, raise your hand. Just see. Okay. Yeah. They are the subjects of the 2020 award-winning documentary Time, which charted their romance amid a 60-year prison sentence. And now the documentary Time 2, Unfinished Business, which captures Rob's release from prison and the couple's ongoing efforts to bring home their unjustly imprisoned nephew and former partner, Ontario, and countless others. So Fox and Bob, you all can come up right now, and I'm going to introduce our other panelists. We're also honored to have as part of this panel, Danielle Cho. Is she on her way? She's on her way. Y'all, we know what parking is like. I've gotten so many texts from people saying they're looking for parking spaces. Right. Okay, so I'm going to go in and introduce Charles Thornton right now, and then I'll introduce Danielle. So then I can reintroduce her. So we're really thrilled to have the participation of mover and shaker Charles Thornton, chair of the board of the DC Corrections Information Council, special assistant to the DC Office of Human Rights, and a former director, yes, Roach, right after you, of the DC Office of Attorney Citizens. Charles was instrumental in helping to facilitate the Kennedy Center's new collaboration with the DC Department of Corrections to bring opera performances and music educational programming to the detention center and the correctional treatment facilities. So let's give it up for Charles Thornton right here. And I'm going to go on and introduce Danielle, but I can reintroduce her when I call on her for a Q&A. That's okay, just so that we have the symmetry here. So we're also going to be very honored to have as part of this panel Danielle Cho, who is not only the phenomenal Washington National Opera assistant principal cellist, I'm not pronouncing her, cellist, yeah, okay. But she's also the co-founder of Sound Impact, which brings music into schools, juvenile detention centers, and international destinations to engage youth through the power of music. And as part of our discussion, Danielle is going to share more about the Washington National Opera's partnership with Sound Impact. Let's give our panel another round. Thank you. Testing. Okay, so as we're getting started, we're going to play just a clip, if we can, of Time 2, the trailer, I think it is, to Time 2. So we can get that. Okay, we got it right. So we can just get a little bit of flavor before I begin my first question to Fox and Bob.
Thank you for this day, for another opportunity to be able to get it right, another opportunity to be in service of someone in need. Thank you for my health. Thank you for my strength. Thank you for my peace of mind. I ask that you continue to give me strength and courage to fight against injustice. Spirit of love, so that I can continue being loving to those that love me. And even find enough love in my heart to love those who despise or maybe even hate me. All the things that I have prayed and asked you for, they've already been given to me. My prayer this morning is just to show my gratitude and say thank you. Let it be so, and so it is. the first time in 21 years. But my heart was heavy as I was forced to leave my nephew and fall partner behind. It became clear to me in that very moment that to be free is to free others.
Awesome. To be free is to free others. Fatima, that was a trailer from your Time 2 documentary. Time 2 comes as the sequel to Time. Okay, can you, two of you, please just in your own words, tell us your story and include within your discussion just how you feel it resonates with the themes in the opera Fidelio.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us, Nikichi. I just, since I first heard your name and then met your energy, I knew you were a powerhouse. And I am just really grateful that on my journey I've been able to connect with you. And thank you for this invitation of being able to share our story on this platform with the Kennedy Sun. We don't take that lightly. For those of you who are meeting us for the first time, we are Fox and Rob Rich, a formerly incarcerated couple who spent more than 21 years inside of Angola State Prison before finally receiving clemency in 2018 from our governor in Louisiana. And Time, the Oscar-nominated documentary currently streaming on Amazon Prime Video, documents our journey through those 21 years using archive footage that I had shot for the 21 years that my husband had been gone. Time 2 for us, time ends with Rob walking out of the gates of Angola back into the arms of his family. But for me, that was not the most important part of our story. So when our film team packed up and went on to their next projects, I continued to keep our cameras rolling because I knew that the most important part of our story was not just him coming home, but what we would now do with freedom. What would we now do with the freedom that we had gained? In Time, people were able to bear witness to my journey of trying to get Rob home, but because Angola would not allow our filmmaker inside of the prison to document the work Rob was doing, I felt that it was also a disservice to the community that had partaken in this art form for them not to fully understand how did we gain freedom. That it wasn't just some fairy tale that came along and sprinkled pixie dust over us and voila, we were free, but the work that went into it, and that people would walk away with an understanding that not only is to be free, to free others, but that when we fight, Nikichi, that we can win. And that is a message that I think above all messages that we need to hear, and one that I'm so proud to hear currently, one of the candidates for president even resounding those words that when we fight, we can win. So I'm gonna let Rob share how he believes that this story ties into Fidelio.
Maybe with that. Yes. Yeah. How's everyone doing today? Good. Again, can't thank Nikichi enough, and Warren with the opera, Fidelio, just all of the pieces that have come together in order for us to even be here. There's crazy as I sit back now on the other side of my 21-year journey through Louisiana's criminal justice system, looking at how when I first went into the system, there were very few people speaking out about the issues of social justice reform. And definitely there were not people speaking out from a soapbox. People weren't necessarily wanting to be heard or seen as the people that were speaking out against these types of issues. But to fast forward, and here we are now, where you have plays like Les Miserables, or when you have operas like Fidelio, and what the Kennedy Center is doing with the Freedom Series is really warming to the heart of a person like myself, that has spent decades inside of prison, hoping, wishing that people would lend a voice to an issue that is far past time for a conversation, a serious conversation. When we think about the themes of bondage, when we think about tyranny, when we think about love and hope and resilience, overcoming those obstacles, those are not new themes. Beethoven's poem goes all, his opera goes all the way back to the early 1800s, I think 1804 or so, when the opera was originally written. It was like maybe 10 years later, 1804, 1815, when it actually came to the light of day. But when you think that that's over 200 years ago, and then when you think about the condition of slavery in America being more than 400 years old, then this is definitely a subject matter that is far overdue for a serious conversation. So again, I'm just so excited that we are willing to utilize the platform of the Washington National Opera, that we are willing to use the Kennedy Center platform, that we are willing to use the power of opera to bring themes like these to the forefront, to audience members that otherwise may have turned a deaf ear and a blind eye to the issue of mass incarceration in America.
So let me just explore it just a little bit further before I move on. I know that you all have seen the opera. We were there together opening night, and at the very beginning, across the screen, you see the Universal, I think it was the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, yes, and the principles from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that countries all across the world should and must, in fact, adhere to. But when you see the opera Fidelio, and we heard the soloist Jasmine Williams Ali, and he was singing with Thurston, which was the prisoner singing, who was in solitary confinement, in the dark, no lights, no human contact. Have you been in solitary confinement, Robin? If so, just tell us just a little bit about that and how you felt when you were watching Fidelio on the stage.
There was those moments where when they went down into, we called it a dungeon, as to, where we were housed in Angola. So yes, to answer your question, I have experienced solitary confinement on more than one occasion. And for an extended period of time, I was there. Crazy enough, Fox was doing a campaign that she was doing. She was working to bring awareness to the children of incarcerated parents by running 7 marathons around the country. The 7 was symbolic for the number of times that children of incarcerated parents are likely to wind up in prison themselves as a result of having a parent there. So her efforts were to bring awareness to the issue. In so doing, she thought to lend some credit and to the role that I was playing in that process, and as a result of it, it didn't set well with the prison administrators, and as a result of it, they locked me into segregated lockdown for it. And what segregated lockdown is that on the stage of what we're able to see when Florenstein is in his cell, there's this big stage and all these other things, but in real time, prison cells are 6x9s, and it would probably be the equivalent of maybe walking into one of your closet spaces and imagine living months on end, sometimes years on end, and sometimes decades on end when we think about the Angola 3. And the fact that they spent more than 30 some odd years in the last of which, by the time he had gotten out of solitary confinement, we're talking about 4 decades of living in a closet, where you have a toilet, you have a bed, you have a sink, and you have the bars that are in front of you. Nothing to look out into. And when you think about when you go home tonight and turn the lights out in your bedroom or in the room that you occupy, that's a certain level of darkness that you experience as a result of doing so. But when you are in isolated lockdown, when you are in the dungeon, you never realize that it could get so dark. And so I can only imagine what Florenstein must have felt in those moments where he thought that he had saw an angel come to him in the middle of the night. Because there are moments that you kind of lose grip with reality when you're in that level of darkness. You start to wonder whether or not the things that you knew to be true prior to being placed in darkness were ever true at all. And then lastly, you wonder if there will ever be a time that you will experience the level of normalcy that you felt before ever entering into the dungeon.
Well, I will say that your wife Fox was your angel who brought you home, and we'll get back to that later. So welcome, Danielle. So glad that, I know what it's like parking in DC and finding a space. So I introduced you earlier, but I'm going to do it just a little bit again since you're right here, right beside me. And I said that you're not only the Washington National Opera's phenomenal assistant principal cellist. I'm not pronouncing that word right. It is cellist. It looks like cellist. Okay, cellist. But you're also the co-founder of Sound Impact, which really brings music into the schools and into juvenile detention centers and international destinations, engaging youth to the power of music. So the first question I have for you is, tell us about your experience as an orchestra member performing music for Fidelio and how you feel music enhances the storytelling through the art form of opera.
Thank you. I apologize for being late. I was coming from the Kennedy Center from another rehearsal for our next production of Macbeth. And yes, parking is sometimes hard in DC. It is a privilege to be on this panel. Thank you to Warren Williams and Shiana Valentine for the invitation, and to speak about, to represent two organizations that I love. First of all, being a member of the Washington National Opera Orchestra. Yes, I am the assistant principal cellist. What that means is that I'm the second chair. There's a principal, and then I'm the assistant principal. And it is a pleasure to open our 2024-25 season with playing Beethoven's Fidelio. It is the only opera that Beethoven ever wrote, and Beethoven is actually one of my favorite composers. I have played many of his symphonies as a cellist. He wrote 5 beautiful cello sonatas, and also so many wonderful string quartets that I've played in chamber music. And Fidelio is actually Opus 72, which would be considered a middle work for Beethoven. My experience playing it is actually, it feels more like an early Beethoven work. It almost feels like playing a Mozart than playing some of his later works, which would be more complex. But there's always a beauty to his writing, that he can write some of the most heart-wrenching melodies, but also get into the depth of the string, that you feel the darkness, you feel the pain, you feel humanity. And that's one of the reasons why I love Beethoven so much, even though he lived so long ago, but he really understood that emotion, the human emotion, and I think it's so fitting for this storyline of Fidelio. It has been wonderful playing it. Our orchestra, we're in the pit, so, we are not seen unless you're sitting maybe on the first or second tier. And being an opera orchestra musician, it's a different experience than being on the symphony orchestra stage, where, so the orchestra will be the main character, they're the star of the show. We are not usually considered the star of the show, obviously the singer in the production, but opera wouldn't be opera without music, and that is why the music, we just played this all Wagner concert on Saturday, and Richard Wagner's music is so powerful, and really you feel all the emotions, and the same with Beethoven. I think we feel that, and it's wonderful to be part of a production, one part of it, but each part is so integral to making the whole production come alive.
So you're right, each part is integral. Let's give it up for Danielle Show. Earlier I gave homage to Francesca Zambello as artistic director. I think his name is Robert Spano, music director. And me, as being someone who's were newly being introduced to opera, I didn't even realize the first time I went to an opera that the music was coming from the pit. And I'm just saying, yeah, it's just, yeah, phenomenal. I'll just say that. So let me turn to Charles Thornton right now. Charles, you helped to facilitate, and thank you very much. Because whenever I call upon you, you're always right there. You have to facilitate the Kennedy Center's partnership with the DC Department of Corrections to bring music and performance into the institution. Can you tell us just what that partnership is entailing and how you feel the residents will respond or are responding to this new initiative?
Yes, ma'am. So first, thank you for asking me to be a part of this. And when you all reached out to me, for me it's really, I'm sitting in there kind of unpacking, 34 years of reentry. And what that really means for me. I was released from Lawton in 1990, 34 years ago. And I instantly, like a lot of folks, became an advocate. Well, actually, I started out as an activist. We were doing things, in 90 and 91 to bring attention to incarceration, like laying in the middle of the street. We took a busload of individuals from Willie Wilson, went down on 14th Street to stop the traffic. And I learned them things. It was a lot of predecessors. It was activists that was involved in things while I was incarcerated. Best friend sitting up there right now, he was a mentor. And they kind of showed us the way. It was folks like Rosie Brown and Waldo P.B. Green, Pete Jackson, you may remember Donald Streeter. These were guys, I was a young guy, but these were guys that were, openly activated. They were activists. And they were definitely out, doing things. And it was amazing. Donald Streeter, the whole time we was in Lawton, he was a jailhouse lawyer. But through programs that were put in place in Lawton, he was able to wind up going to Georgetown and getting a law degree. And that was hope. And Ben was on the DC parole board. And that was hope, formerly incarcerated person. So when I got my turn, I found that, in the 90s, in the early 90s when I was released, there was no whole lot of talk about reentry. That was not even a word. Recidivism wasn't a word. None of that stuff really existed then. I started out as a volunteer at the DC Department of Corrections. In the same institution that I came out of, Lawton, I was going back in 92. And what I found in 92 was that, I was able to establish relationships. And these relationships would be key because it was folks that would wind up as wardens. It was folks that would wind up as directors. What we had to do is through those relationships, some programs that did not exist, we were able to get them in. And the example came from Lawton, from Roach, from folks like that. I got an opportunity to see Isaac Hayes in Lawton. While doing a bit. They had entertainers coming in. I wasn't into a lot of the arts, but what I do know is that freedom ain't free. And it was the arts, it was entertainment, it was things that was allowing individuals on the inside to free their mind and get opportunity to be on the outside through that. And then they took it a step, and I had to give promise to it. They took it a step higher and were able to physically go on the outside. We had, they had, choirs. They went out and did performances and came back to the institution. And all of that, when I was released in 90, those were the things that were in my mind to try to revamp. So through my relationships with, some of the directors, we were able to open up the doors and do some of the things. So when you came to me about, the opera, I'm and establishing a relationship with the Kennedy Center.
Yes.
I could not, right now, as I go over to especially our local jail, and the young guys out that are there are talented guys. I'm talking about talent that you cannot even perceive, and it's wasted talent. But to have an opportunity, and again, I'm not into the arts, I'm not talented in that way, but I've seen, physically with my eyes, and I've heard individuals tell me what it does for them.
Yeah.
So for me to not support that, I believe that's part of what my freedom was all about. That's why I'm free, because I can, through God, do those kind of things for other people. So, and I'm going to turn it over, but the other day, yesterday, a guy that helped raise me, they was having a candlelight vigil for me. He's an old school teacher that was a big part of my life. And they had a candlelight and a balloon thing for him yesterday. But I take a meeting to the jail at the same time. So I had to make a decision. And it wasn't really about what was more important. The decision was based on what was the best need. And I know them guys are waiting for me in that institution. My friend is gone. He loved me. I love him. That's set. That's solid. But them guys in that institution, that's where my need is at. And that's what I, try to facilitate. So, thanks.
Thank you. So I want to go back to Danielle for a moment. So in addition to being an orchestra member, you also spearhead Sound Impact. And can you talk to us a little bit about Sound Impact's Use Your Voice program in the Washington National Opera's new collaboration with the Alexandria Detention Center, and why you feel this work is important?
Yes, thank you. So I'm a co-founder of Sound Impact, which was founded 11 years ago. My other co-founder, Tiffany Richardson, is up there. And our board member, Keisha Johnstone, up there. We're about bringing music education programs to youth in communities that need it the most. And we do that in Title I schools, juvenile detention center, international communities, like you already mentioned. Last year, or last season at the end, Francesca Zambello and Timothy O'Leary came into our musicians lounge and shared that they would be going into the prisons as part of the Fidelio production. And when I heard that, I was like, I should let them know that we've been doing this kind of work. So after some emails and some connections, we were connected with Shiana Valentine, and this dream of collaborating together at the Northern Virginia Juvenile Detention Center in Alexandria, which Sound Impact has been going in regularly and doing 3-day, what we call user voice workshops. Working with the youth there over the course of 3 days, we create a collaborative musical performance that not just we play for them, but we work with them so that they're able to use their own creative outlets, whether it be spoken word, creating their own music, playing alongside us, and it turns into a very beautiful end concert that we do together. And then this residency that we just started yesterday and will be finishing on Friday brings in some opera musicians from the Washington National Opera, including superstar Solomon Howard. If you don't know him, you can look him up, but he's been a friend of mine and for some time, and I've collaborated with him in many projects, and it was always a dream to have him come in with Sound Impact, and it just worked out with his schedule to be here in DC. I'm so excited. Yesterday, he went in, and I think actually when the youth first heard opera, we we showed them a video, a lot of them were laughing. I think it was a reaction of like, they'd never heard this kind of music before. Like, what is this? Some of them enjoyed it, and some were, felt uncomfortable with it. But there was something when he sang, he told his story. He came from Southeast DC. He comes from a similar background as probably many of them did. He was the first college graduate out of both sides of his family, and he shared with them like this. I'm here where I am today because someone believed in me. Someone pushed me to be in this direction, and it was so moving. And then he performed this beautiful aria from Mozart's Magic Flute Opera, and he just told them this aria is like meant to be a prayer. You can close your eyes, you can just be in the moment. And many of them were just had their head down or were just, I don't know, and it was a magical moment. And I think to have those kind of moments with the youth, to, like you were talking about, to give these musical experiences, it's something you can't quantify or explain really, but it's something that moves you and gives them an opportunity for self-expression. Afterwards, we workshopped Lift Every Voice and Sing, and we first played it for them, Solomon sang, and then we had them each come up and get the opportunity to sing in the mic or play the drums, just to give them that confidence, that opportunity to perform in front of others. I think is so valuable.
Valuable and powerful, and thank you so very much, Diane. So, I just found out yesterday that today, October 30th, is something that is called World Political Prisoner Day. I didn't even know there was a World Political Prisoner Day, but I found that out from an email that I got from the Leonard Peltier Defense Committee. And for those who don't know, Leonard Peltier is a political prisoner who has been serving, I'm not even quite sure how long, probably over 50 years in prison right now. And he is facing what they call death by incarceration. He's very elderly, he's very ill, and he's seeking to be transferred to a medical facility that will be close to his homelands, his tribal homelands here in the United States, etc., etc. But there are political prisoners in this country, whether you go back to the enslavement era, DeMar Vesey and Nat Turner, and the list goes on, Marcus Garvey, Callie House, all of these are people who were in prison for their political views, and down through Angela Davis and Geronimo Gijaga, Mia Abu-Jamal, Jalil Muntakin, Sunyata Akoli, Veronza Bowers, the list goes on and on. And I bring this because, Fatima, you have never tried to hide or minimize the crime that sent the two of you, and we need to talk about the two of you, we haven't explored that yet, to prison. But in the opera Fidelio, the husband, Florestan, was in fact a political prisoner, in prison not for a crime, but for the expression of his political views against a tyrannical government. We had a conversation, Fox, because I said, well, Florestan in Fidelio was a political prisoner, and we talked it through, and you said, well, actually, Bob was a political prisoner as well. Can you kind of explain for the audience our discussion around that and how the politics of policy is really political? Can you go to that?
Well, I just think that when we were having the conversation about the themes in Fidelio and Florenstein being a political prisoner, I brought it to Nikichi's attention that Black men in America that are incarcerated are political prisoners. And it is because of the politics of our time. It's not just that my family broke the law. We broke the law, and for that, we deserve to retribution for our unjust deeds in society. We had broken the societal codes, and we needed to pay a price, whatever price that was for our actions. But what price is being paid by Black people in America for their transgressions is based upon the policies and the politics of our time. Our family took $5,136.63 out of a bank. And I know the 63 cents was ours, because I know we had some money before we went in that bank. And for that transgression, the state of Louisiana sentenced him to 60 years in prison. His nephew, who went in the bank than 20 years old to 45 years in prison. So unless you believe that all the bad people in the world live in our country, because our country leads the entire world in incarceration, so unless you believe that all the bad people on the planet live in the United States of America, then each of us has to understand that it is our duty to fight for our freedom, and that to be free is to free others. When you think about the truth in sentencing laws that were formulated in the 1990s, that even I am guilty of voting for, I thought to myself when I was in the voting booth, Nikichi, I said, 3 strikes, yeah, they broke the law 3 times, lock them up for life, they deserve it. 17 and you're committing a felony? I said with my own vote, yes, then you should be tried as an adult. I said, if you commit a violent offense, I voted on my ballot. Yes, you should do 85% of your time. And then God would have me sit in the courtroom after casting those votes and watch my own family fall prey to the same measures I voted for. Because Rob had committed an act of violence. Out of that 60 years, he would have to serve 51 before he could ever go up for parole. I watched them bring in young people, 17 years old, that had made mistakes, and they gave Louisiana and Carroll Parish in particular, where we're from. We have sent more children sentenced as adults than any other place in the country. In addition to that, we have sentenced more children, more people to death row in Louisiana than any other place in the nation. So Fidelio, even though the tyrant was about what he said and how he was moving against the government in this country has moved so harshly and heinously against African Americans that it has led us to be the #1 group of people incarcerated in our country. And again, when we think about the policies and the politics of the truth in sentencing laws, everybody has said, oh my gosh, we made a mistake. Hillary Clinton said, oh, well, they're not really super predators like I said they were in the 90s. You know, I really didn't mean it like that. Clinton said, oh, I'm sorry, but you know, everybody was acting up there. We did the best job we could. Everybody has apologized, but not one single person has moved to take it back, to repeal it. Just like we put it in place, we can repeal it. And that is just one of the major things in our society when you talk about political prisoners. And then we'll just take it a step further, Nikichi, because I know this is a work that is close to your heart. The founding of our freedom as Black people in America through the 13th Amendment to the Constitution still leaves a hitch pin for us to be enslaved.
Come on.
Until we remove the exception clause from the United States Constitution, from the 13th Amendment, then we can never be a free people. And the interesting dynamic in that is, if this is the land of the free, then no matter how you transgress in this country, it should not be able to subjugate you to slavery. Not in the land of the free.
You know, you quoted, just give it up for that. The 13th Amendment, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist except as punishment for a crime. Right there, enshrined in the United States Constitution. Many of us don't even know that that is there. But it's there, that's what we are continually still fighting against. So you all have defied other odds as well. I know that there's a myth out there. I'm going to call it a myth because your family definitely didn't fit within that statistic. But there's a myth that says that if you have an incarcerated parent, then it's likely that the children will be incarcerated. I know that that's a myth because I have a dear mentee, Ebony Underwood, who has been dealing with this issue, dealing with children of incarcerated parents. But I know between the two of you all have six sons. Can you talk about that myth as it relates to your 6 sons?
I think I would just have to counter that, Nikichi, and say it's actually not a myth. It is the intentionality of the system. Again, it is the politics. They have set this system up to know that if your parents are incarcerated, and the state, when I got sentenced to my time in prison for dropping my husband off at the bank, they wanted me to, the first offer that I got from the district attorney's office was 40 years. Did you first, all three of us, it was our first felony offense, and the offer that I got from the DA's office for my transgressions was that I should spend 40 years in prison. Then they went down to 20 years, and I ended up taking a plea deal for a total of 19 years. When I went to be sentenced on August 31st of 2000, the judge didn't ask me a single solitary thing about the 4 children I was leaving behind. My 7-year-old son, my 4-year-old son, and my 10-month-old twins. Nothing in them remanding me to the Department of Corrections did they ask, baby, who gonna care for your children when I snatch you up and send you off for these years? Who got your children now that you're here in front of me being remanded into the care of the Department of Corrections? That should be something that is asked. If the state is removing a parent from its duties, then the state has a responsibility to make sure that something else is in place to care for those orphan children. Our children become socially orphaned from our incarceration. So no, it ain't no myth. It's an intentionality to lock up another generation of black and brown people in this country. But we say the devil is a lie. I say the devil is a lie because In Time movie, if you get a chance to watch it on Amazon Prime, my quote to the suffering that they are placing on my family is, success is the best revenge. And so we set out to make sure that our shortcomings did not short-stop our 6 sons from succeeding by any means necessary. And for that, Nikichi, we are so honored to be able to say that yes, we have 6 sons. That our eldest son put himself through college while helping support his mother in New Jersey and is now a celebrated sommelier. Our second oldest son, the first oldest of our union together, just graduated from dental school, then turned around and did his residency at the Indiana University, took a contract last August in New Orleans with his mentor and is now a celebrated orthodontist, having passed and become not just the fact that he is 1% of black dentists, all dentists, there is only 1% of all dentists that are African American, but on top of that, a couple of months ago, the young man became nationally board certified orthodontist, making him another 1% of the 1% of orthodontists in the country. Our third oldest son is an Army veteran and has taken a wife and living in New York. He was the first to get married. Our twin boys, Freedom and Justice. Justice has served honorably in the military and is now living abroad. Freedom, his twin brother, is here and on his 3rd promotion in Congress, serving as the Senior Director of Operations for our Congressman from North Carolina. And then our baby boy, Robert Jr. just received is that you, Freedom? And then our baby boy, Robert Jr., just got a scholarship. He started college at Tulane in New Orleans at 16 years old. And then at 17 years old, he received a scholarship to his school of choice, which was the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, which I discovered after he got in is the 10th top art school in the world and the 2nd top art school in the United States. So, yes, success is the best revenge.
I don't even think there's nothing that you can say to that.
Wow, all I can say is wow, 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 wow. I want to go back to Charles Gordon. So Charles, I know this week has been a really busy week for you, and you have been working very tirelessly to ensure that DC detainees have the access that they need in order to vote. Can you talk to us about that work as well as other work that you do with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated communities?
Again, yes, thank you. And so a lot of people may not be aware that there are 4 jurisdictions in the country that individuals who are incarcerated can vote. But there's more than 4, but people who are incarcerated with felony convictions can actually vote. And that's Maine, Vermont, Puerto Rico, and the District of Columbia. And most of those jurisdictions do not have a system in place that will allow individuals who want to exercise their right to vote to vote. So, one of the things that, I was tasked with, and again, I just had great mentors. I had great people who kind of showed me the ropes, and as a result of that, and again, establishing relationships, because you gotta have those relationships, and this is with the Board of Elections. When I became aware that the law allowed DC residents who are incarcerated to vote, the question to me became, why aren't they voting? So what we had to do, and again, I've done nothing on my own, and I often think about the folks who, Charlie Sullivan's Cure, and all the other folks who helped guide the conversation, but it was more than just a conversation, who actually, were able to go in and work with the powers that be, the wardens, the DC Board of Elections, to put a system in place that will outlast me. So when I'm gone, that system will continue, that will allow these guys to exercise their right. In 2008, when Obama was running, we didn't everyone that wanted to vote in the Department of Correction got an opportunity to vote. No matter what you was convicted of, no matter the crime, that had no burns.
Yes.
And we've been doing that all the time. I had 2 mentors. One was Eddie Ellis. He's no longer with us. He really guided me. And the other one was the late great Marion Bird.
Come on now.
And I had no idea. I was released in '90, and meeting these guys, them guys directed my life, and keep looking at Roach up there. It just, again, but DC, as most folk may not know, and I'm becoming a historical expert on the district. And one of the things that home rule for the district, it's a lot of work running the home rule. And our first elected mayor was Mayor Washington, but our second elected mayor, Marion Bird, right? One of the first pieces of legislation that was signed into law by his administration was introduced by Arrington Dixon. He was at large council member. And that legislation that was introduced gave incarcerated residents the right to vote, as well as anybody that was released. I don't care what you were released on. Parole, probation, didn't matter. They gave your rights back to vote. And that was done in 1980.
Yes.
Now, in signing that legislation into law, I know Marion Bird had no idea that in 1994, he would be returning to the district from Petersburg, from a federal institution, and that there would be a group of formerly incarcerated individuals that would come together, led by, again, my mentor up there, Rose Brown, that would, and he deserved a round of applause. When we talk about prison and incarceration, it's hard not to, we have to acknowledge that.
That's right.
I laugh a lot, we joke a lot. A lot of folks don't know he was pardoned by Gerald Ford. Right? In what, 76?
On Christmas Day.
Pardoned.
Merry Christmas.
Pardoned. I shouldn't say this, but he that's a whole other story. You know, but again, you know, just yesterday, and this stuff is amazing to me. I know it's God working. You know, I was told by a group of guys yesterday when I went back into the jail that they're blocked. They didn't come up to Northwest 2 for voting. And it's a 3-day process. And when I went into jail today, you know, I got the warden, the executives, you know, to the ward, and I got them all to go. And why they listen to me like this, I don't know. But I told them, look, I need to see Northwest 2. I'm going in with you, and I need to see these guys. And they bring them out, and they come down in the chapel and vote. And for whatever reason, you know, maybe it's Corrections Information Council, I believe it's God.
Yeah.
You know, they seem to listen to me, you know, but again, these type of things cannot be individually based. It has to be a system that will continue, because I'm definitely gone at some point. So, you know, again, you know, and it's them kind of things that, you know, voting while incarcerated, you know, and I'll share this with you too. The district is a model in a lot of areas. A lot of areas. You know, the office that we often talk about, the mayor's office on returning citizen affairs, there's not a lot of those offices that exist in the country. And the district was the first one. And one thing we do here, you cannot run that office unless you formally incarcerated. So we put things into the law, into the legislation that allow us to do this. And, you know, I've been in, and now, you know, the 1997 Revitalization Act has been one of the real, you know, I mean, it's been a travesty to district residents. And if folk don't know what that is, the 1997 Revitalization Act is what was used to close our law prison. And it enabled DC residents who have state charges to serve their time in the federal system and have to serve 85% of their time. And we got guys in right now in the federal system who've been in there 30, 40. We got folks who come home after doing 50 years, and they don't even have murders. But they're coming home, drug dealers, coming home after doing 50 years as a result of that 1997 Revitalization Act. And guess what? It can be repealed. It can be repealed. Yes. And these are the kind of things that, you know, we have to be able to, you know, put on the ballot. Yes. Put on the ballot. And this is where the voting come in at. You know, so it's just about waking these folks' eyes up and continue to, you know, just try to pass it on. So,
nice. So, Sean, thank you so much for that phenomenal work. Always and forever. So, Danielle, can you talk to us a little bit about how you feel this opera's themes resonate with contemporary issues that we are seeing around us today?
Well, we see a corrupted politician who's hungry for power and, you know, wanting to oppress whoever's against him. And I think we've seen that across time. We see it in the world today. And I think a lot of operas end in death and sadness. The one thing about Fidelio is that it ends with it has a hopeful, good ending where they're liberated. And I think that's such a powerful message that even with the oppression and Florestan ends up being liberated, and also this message of love between Florestan and Leonora and having a happy ending. I think that, you know, that gives people hope too.
It gives people hope. I think that was good enough right there. So then my last question I have before I open it up for Q&A, and just to give you just a little preview, Roach, I want you to go to the mic first. The mic will come to you actually. I just want you to say a little bit about the inner voices. And I know a lot of people in the DC community know about that, but that was a phenomenal program with furloughs that needs to be instituted. So, Dr. Rob, we're you feel about the experience and significance of having your story, your story told at the Kennedy Center? Because it's not just this event here at the Martin Luther King Library. It also was part of one of the official wraparound events around Fidelio, where we actually previewed Time 2 at the Kennedy Center. Talk to us about that.
Well, first, I would have to talk to you all about the opera, because when we went on Friday night, it was our first time attending the opera. It was our first time attending visiting the beautiful Kennedy Center. And I will have you all know that we did walk away with the Best Dressed Couple Award. It was important to me. But all jokes aside, to be able to have our story on the platform of the Kennedy Center stage is no small feat, and we don't take that lightly. To us, when we were nominated for an Oscar in this film, Time 2, which is the sequel to the Oscar-nominated documentary, at our Oscar party that we hosted after the Oscars was over, our comment was that we had taken our message to their highest platforms. And so even though the Oscar was given to the octopus teacher on that night, our message to our community of over 200 social justice advocates that had traveled across the country to come to LA to be with us for this party was that we had already won. We won because our story was on their platform, this story of incarceration about love and incarceration that is typically not one that our society wants to hear from. So to have our story grace the stage of the Kennedy Center by invitation was quite an honor. And I think that it is just a revelation that society is being more open to having this conversation, these essential conversations, because we are the superpower of the world. And if we don't understand as a society that we're only as strong as our weakest link, and that human beings are our greatest resources, and invest in that aspect of it, then we are never going to really fulfill the American dream that God has put us here to fulfill. And so I'm just honored that as long as we keep pushing, Charles, as long as we keep telling these stories and the work that Roach has done for, you ain't but 25, so I can't say 50 years, but you know, it's been a minute. But to be able to keep pushing these messages until it is heard from the highest office, and not just heard, but acted upon. So then we can start doing things like repealing the Revitalization Act and the harm that it causes, because not only are the citizens in DC charged with federal crimes, but the poor citizens of the place where you live are shipped all over the world from their loved ones for any minuscule crime that they have committed. And so then being able to have things like the Truth in Sentencing Act not just apologized for, but repealed. And then to think about the other 50 places or 45 places where people who are incarcerated do not get a chance to vote. I ask you this: if I do not lose my citizenship when I break the law, how in the world is it that I lose my right to vote? It's a part of my birthright as a citizen in this country. So how then have we allowed states to come in and snuff it out from our citizenry on our watch? So those are the things that I say, that the more these stories can be told, and through the arts. It is only through the arts that I really believe that we can open the human heart in a way that research and statistics can never open the human heart. It was through the art form of screening our film at Sundance. It was the first time that I saw white men cry I mean, literally boo-hoo in front of me because they had been so convicted by what they saw in the film. So that was a message to me that if we really want to move the needle, then we've got to do it through storytelling, through opera, through the arts.
So y'all see how love is released. I mean, I'm just saying that just as Leonora in the opera Fidelio, through her love and her passion and her just righteousness for what justice should be about, resulted in the release of Fidelio. Your love, devotion, and quest for justice resulted in the release of Rob. Do you have any final words before we open it up for Q&A, Rob?
I bet he does. I bet I know what you're gonna say. I do. I bet, because I'm that good. We've been doing it for 37 years. I bet I know what you're gonna say.
We should be on one of those game shows. She thinks she knows me. I would have to say that as my closing thought, or some of my closing thoughts, would have to be in alignment with the closing thoughts of Fidelio. And it said, let the husband with the wife, hold on, let me make sure I get this right. Let the husband with the wife.
With an honorable wife.
No, it's not honorable. Hold up.
Okay, what is it?
I had it.
She got you.
No, I got it.
Oh, found it.
Let the man with the noble wife rejoice. But let the man with the noble wife rejoice is something that was that resonated with me toward the end, because as Florenstein was understanding that it was through the love and devotion of his wife, the nobility of his wife, that really that trumped the tyranny that they were up against. And so it's just again, like I said, just amazing opportunity that we had to be able to have our story put alongside such an amazing work as that of Fidelio and the work of the people who have all conspired together to bring that opera to the forefront. So again, like I said, I can't be thankful enough for that. And for any man that is in the audience that has a wife that is of noble quality, please rejoice.
I like that. Let's all rejoice. So while we're getting the mic to Roach, Warren, I don't know how we're doing. The lights are really shining. It's hard for me to see, but I'm not quite sure. Is that Kristen Clark right there? Okay. So we're talking about someone who is the Assistant Attorney General in the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice who's here. And we've been talking about justice issues here. So we're so very glad that you come here to hear this phenomenal panel related to this opera. So welcome, Kristen Clark. And Elizabeth? Is that Liz? Oh my God! Oh! Liz Boyer is the pardon attorney, okay, for the United States government that deals with issues of clemency. Let's give them both a hand. I can't see. Oh my goodness. You don't know what this means to me for both of you all to be in this audience and to be sitting side by side, because you have done so much. You have done so much to bring justice to these issues that we have been dealing with. So I just want to officially say thank you so very much. Okay, so Roach Brown. First of all, I want to thank Roach and Martine, his wife, his noble wife, because I Roach Brown is a programmer on WPFW, Pacifica Radio, Crossroads, and I want to thank WPFW for helping to publicize this, and Roach for also having many people that are on this panel on your show. So, Roach, tell us about your story as the first comment that we're having as part of this Q&A.
First of all, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And thanks to everybody who's participating in this event. And I was glad I was invited to see the opera, my wife and I, with Fox and Rob and Nikichi. And this is a beautiful experience. Every time Fox and Rob come into DC, we show up. We went to New Orleans and broadcast our show live from New Orleans from Fox and Rob's apartment. And every time they come in town, they was in Baltimore a month ago. We at Baltimore. So wherever they go, their story is unbelievable. It's motivational, it's inspirational. And I came up, got out of prison for starting a drama group called the Inner Voices in Lawton. I was serving a life sentence, got severely injured, thrown in solitary for 8 months. I was paralyzed. They took me out and sent me to the sane asylum. I did 3 years in the sane asylum. And I came out, went to the Lord and started writing a play, and I wrote a poem, Christmas in Prison. And them words got me out of prison. I saw Christmas in ways I never knew it, felt, or saw it. As Rob said, you never know how dark can be when there's no light. And the basement is the lowest place you can get in a house.
Yeah.
But there's a room beneath the basement. And when you go to that room beneath the basement, you learn how to get in touch with your inner voice.
Yes.
And we would start performing all over the city. They let us out of prison. We returned. We performed over 500 times outside the gates of Lawton and returned. And the arts played a beautiful part. When you can put somebody in touch with their creativity,
Yes.
and you don't know that you have creativity,
Yeah.
but you got so much hurt and pain.
Yeah.
And creativity comes out of hurt and out of pain. And the more you hurt, the more you grow. And the more you hurt, the more you learn. I went in as a neophyte, and I came in with a PhD in pain and suffering. But I turned that into creativity. As a result of that, we got a presidential commendation from President Ford for the work that we did inside. And Richard Pryor took us out of prison, and we went around the country and performed at the Apollo Theater, at Walpole State Prison, at Sing Sing. We were the only prisoners who was allowed out of prison to go into other prisons in other states and perform and introduce those guys to the theater. When you get in touch with that theater and your creativity, it made my hair grow. See that? I ain't going to let this participate in this lady here. I don't know the word to say, but she took me to a spa, a color spa. And I've never been to no spa. So we get in there and we start taking off our clothes. And there's an old lady working on me and a guy on her. So I said, wait a minute. I thought you said you loved me. She said she did. I said, you let another woman touch all of this? And you can sit right in there and say nothing? So I laid down in the space and put my face in it. And I couldn't see. I'm trying to see her. And what that guy's going to my wife over there. So when I got there, the lady started huffing and puffing. So I'm looking. She needed CPR, and she's doing the spa, giving me an examination for the spa. And she started huffing and puffing, and she fell off a stool. So I had to help her up. I never got my massage. I'm playing a first responder. Let me just come shut up.
If you have a question or comment for our esteemed panel. And introduce yourself also, please.
My name is Matthew Woods. I'm a musical missionary here in D.C. I work with a lot of the shelters. I help homeless people. I do art and music. I find out their musical talents. I just signed up a girl to U of D.C. studying art, a homeless girl. And she's so excited she can study art now. So that's a good thing. Using music and art to find their skills and talents. Then they wanted to do it, but nobody would tell them they could. At the shelters, they throw lots of food and roof, but they don't inspire them to find what their destiny path is. And I'm watching it, and it just takes a few words of encouragement sometimes. I get them set up with guidance counselors, and music and art is just, it's going to start block. They're going to be part of the new Renaissance, I tell them. And it's thrilled to find that they have a place with their skills and talents. I think you two should sign up for the Newlyweds game. That's right? And I'm very touched about the story of your children. That's truly beauty from ashes. Truly, it's so beautiful. I didn't intend to come here tonight, so I'm not. But what the impact of the First Step, what we were talking about, the criminal justice system, I know there was something done with the First Step Act and then maybe the Second Step Act. And who signed that into law? And has that had a good impact or not? Or what's going on with that?
Guess that's a question, right? They need an answer.
Let me say that again, Charles.
I think that's a question that need an answer.
Yes, the First Step Act has been very instrumental, but there needs to be much more to happen and to occur. Much more.
I'm going to chime in on that. And the First Step Act was not the first piece of legislation that was signed into law federally to address these issues. The first piece was the Second Chance Act. And I happened to be at the signing of the Second Chance Act. And a lot of people think that it was President Obama who signed it. It wasn't. It was George W. Bush who signed the Second Chance Act. And at the signing of the Second Chance Act, and I'm bringing this up because I'm 100%, formerly incarcerated have to be involved. In that whole process, the Wetzel, the guy from Pennsylvania, Glover, and I'm talking about all the people who was on the stage when the act was being signed, and they gave the pen to a correctional guy. And this is legislation for reentry, for people coming home from incarceration. And as I looked around, none of us was there. I was there, but it was none of us was there. None of us was on the stage. A correctional person got the pen, and there was no inclusion of formerly incarcerated. And that's the thing that we really have to do if we're really serious about pushing the envelope.
That's right.
Right, yeah, I appreciate that. And I just want to echo what you said. I always had a problem with the title First Step Act, because it wasn't First Step. I was around then too with the Second Chance Reentry Bill. I was around with the Fair Sentencing Act, which reduced the disparity between crack and powder cocaine. So it wasn't the first step, but it was another step along the path. Thank you very much for your question. Do we have another question? I really can't see from the lights. Okay, I see someone. Okay.
My name is Ed Sargent, and I grew up here, and I've been to this library so many times. And I first want to give honor to my ancestors, because we fill this place every day with creativity, and I see that the spirit continues to live. And I want to say, only in Washington, D.C., I don't think so, because look at what we have here. We have some very stellar individuals. We have some great spirits, soldiers in the struggle for freedom. So, to make my long story short, I want to say I give honor to all my ex-offenders, my fellow ex-offenders. You don't have to be in jail a long time to understand it, to feel it. So, that's one point. I just want to say I was a spokesman. I was the spokesman for the D.C. Department of Education. I ran for education. School board. I was the spokesman for the corrections department. I remember going to Lawton many times. I met some very good people in Lawton. But my main point, I'll take 1 minute to say this. Prisons are important. We need prisons. We need prisons. Prisons are made for certain individuals who need to be incarcerated. That's why it's such an injustice for people who don't need to be incarcerated to be in prison, because they don't belong in prison. So I just want to make that short. I want to make that very clear to society. Prisons are here for a reason. Now, the man has to rehabilitate himself in prison. I'm all for it. Like I said, I was a spokesman. I love my brothers. But the point is, I met some individuals who they were incorrigible, and I just want to say that for the record. Don't get it twisted. We need our prisons, but we need our prisons to be rehabilitated, and we need our prisons to be spiritual based. So that's my point. I appreciate that.
Okay, so I just want to welcome Lamont Carey. I saw he just came in. He's the current director of the D.C. Office of Deterring Citizens.
It is the correct name. It was changed by legislation from the Office of Ex-Offender Affairs to the Office of Returning Citizens.
Thank you. Shout out to that.
We have a question up here.
Okay, Sarah, I believe you.
Greetings. I just want to thank all of you for coming and having this program. I was at your event last week at Kennedy Center. It was amazing. I got there late, so I didn't get to see the whole film. My first question, I know you mentioned they're showing it on Amazon, but are you going to be doing another screening and panel discussion somewhere in Washington, D.C. or the metropolitan area?
I am sure once the film comes out in 2025 that we will be hosting community screenings with the film after it comes out, goes into distribution in 2025. So please keep on the lookout, and if you did see some of it, Time to Unfinished Business, our website is time2twomovie.com. So if you don't mind checking there or following us on all social media at Time to Movie, then we'll be able to offer updates as to where we're going to be, the release date of the film, and all the things. What do you think moved you most, if I may ask, about what you did see of the of Time to?
Both of you, your relentlessness in never giving up, and continuing to move forward to help other people. I think it's amazing, and it should be done more so by others.
Thank you so much.
Question for Mr. Thornton. Are you also working with programs to prevent youth and young adults from going to jail so they don't have to deal with some of the situations after getting in there and trying to get out?
So actually, myself, no, I'm not. My role right now is I inspect prisons, BOP prisons with DC residents incarcerated. Now, I have worked with many community-based and nonprofit organizations and helping them to design programs for youth, but that's not my main, job right now. I'm a government employee, and I am responsible for monitoring conditions of confinement for DC residents throughout the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So I guess the answer is no.
Thank you, but that's much needed. So that's God bless all.
Can identify yourself? Thank you.
My name is Nene Taylor, known as Mom to Harriet Tubman, DC resident, born and raised here in DC.
I missed that. Can you what was Harriet Tubman? I gotta hear this one.
I said my name is Nene Taylor, modern day Harriet Tubman. I'm born and raised here in Southeast DC. Also executive director of Harriet's Waters Rings, which is the abolitionist organization here in DC doing work. And first I want to acknowledge that we need resources, not prisons. And also that I would like to address you all, as I know the work that you all do to what we said, we not free to all of us free, and our God is, and our work is to free them all. How hard it is as you all tell your story and go into these places who don't have the mindset that we know that prisons erase people, not problems. How hard is it for you all to go into these places, because we know we have to be in these places and actually educate the people. So the impact of that being in places like the Kennedy Center, which I think is amazing that you all are able to go there, because those are the places we need to be to tell the story so they truly understand that we're not free until all of us are free.
I think that was probably a good question. Thank you so much. Not only thank you for the question, Nene, thank you for all that you do, how you show up in the world. Got my girl Q up in here, who is one of our sponsors, her organization, Life After Release, for our film. And they run the work that we do in Louisiana. We are one hub of 40 hubs across this country doing the work of a model called Participatory Defense, where we teach justice-involved families legal awareness as the best form of defense. And it is one of the most profound tools that I have found on this 30-year journey through the criminal justice system. For me, it was being at the, not only did we attend the opera on Friday, Saturday we had an opportunity to screen our film, Time to Unfinished Business, at the Kennedy Center. And then we turned around on Sunday and had the distinct honor of being able to do a Q&A panel after the opera with Francesca, and you say her last name so well. Zambello. Francesca Zambello, who is the art director for Fidelio. We were able to create the art creative director for Fidelio. And so to be able to have her moderate a Q&A with Rob and I and Nikichi with the audience from Fidelio it was a very intriguing experience, and it was beautiful to watch as they wanted to ask questions. They wanted to stay longer and know more. They wanted to apologize because they were so unfamiliar with this system that it was not a part of them. And probably even taking it a step further and saying that even at our screening on Saturday at the Kennedy Center, for those of you that were not with us, our screening was moderated by none other than Frank Luntz. So if you will Google Frank Luntz, then you will find out who he is. So to have someone who was formerly a Republican, but is a pollster, to moderate our panel, and for him to say at that discussion, "You all have changed my life." Frank Luntz is one of the wordsmiths behind the contract with America. Frank Luntz was one of the forefront engineers of pushing lock 'em up and throw away the key. And then, as our God would have it, Frank Luntz becomes the person that God would use to speak to our governor in Louisiana to gain his signature for my husband's release. And so I know that through these arts, being able to turn the human heart, God has the power to turn a man's heart. And so it's never hard for me because I'm not doing it, Nene. God is.
Come on. Thank you. Wow. We have time for maybe about one more question. We do have a reception directly following this, but is there anyone that has, I can't really see, a question or comment? I see Warren going somewhere with the mic. Oh, okay.
Well, you talked about legal rights. Could that be part of a civics program in high school?
I think without a doubt, we should have conversations about sex, drug, and the criminal justice system in our high schools. I actually think it needs to be held in.
I actually think those conversations are essential to be held in elementary school, so that before they are even exposed, they can be knowledgeable about it. So I think that is definitely something that, as we talk about things that we can make better as a society, when we can teach our people better, then they know better, and that means that they'll do better. So yeah, I definitely agree with you that it's something that needs to be in our school system.
Knowing the rights is one thing. Knowing how to properly assert them, that should be part of the training, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much. Charles, actually, if any of you all want to make some very brief closing remarks, I'm going to start with you because I know you want to say something. You don't have to, but if you want to.
Yeah, so again, first I want to thank you for asking me to come out. And I'm going a little off script. How many of you all remember the genocide in Rwanda in 1994? So this is the 30th anniversary of the genocide, right? And I've been to Rwanda several times, visiting their prison systems and talking to the Minister of Justice, the powers that be in Rwanda. This year, they're opening a reentry center. And this center is going to be designed for some of the perpetrators of the genocide, right? And they were here actually yesterday and today. We went and looked at Morka, met with Lamont, sat down, but we also today, we met with the National Institute of Corrections, Stephen Labulio and a whole team from the BOP that really talk about reentry and really what that looked like. I bring that up because while in Rwanda, right, and if you all are not familiar with the genocide that took place, there was over 1 million people that were tortured and killed in 60 days. And some of those guys have already been released through what was called Gothic courts, right? And they were released, you know, as part of reconciliation. There's a whole lot to being released. Well, the folks that are designated for this reentry center, for the reentry center that's opening, it's 2,500 folks, 2,000 men, 500 women, and they have not, they've been in 30 years. And these are folks who have not admitted their part in the genocide, right? and they still want to be released, and they're here and going around. I know it's all script, but it's just so important for me because, what I find that, and I think Fox brought this up, all crime should have, do you have to take a whole life? A whole life, and Rwanda as a community now, one of the things with these individuals, they're more concerned about their fear of retaliation, from the individuals that were the victims, and those sort of things. But again, it's just, this stuff is happening all over the world. Reentry, and some things we do have that can be models.
Yes.
So,
It is happening all over the world. Thank you so very much.
As a musician, I think it's a reminder that music has the power to bring people together in a community, and it's amazing that Fidelio, the opera, brought us here all together to have these powerful conversations where I just learned so much from all of you, and I'm so inspired, and just to hear the stories from the audience members of what you're all doing to impact communities around you, and I just wanted to say thank you for that.
I think for us, it is definitely be an honor to be here. We have some of our books with us, Time. If you have not gotten a copy, I think it'll bless you on this journey if you want to know more. So we have those here with us, and follow our work. We are Fox and Rob at foxandrob.com and Fox and Rob on all social media. So thank you all for being here tonight.
Probably just my closing thought would be, like you said, all the thank yous for, again, everybody that brought this together and made this happen. But as I'm on the panel and listening to, just the sum total of what it is that we've been able to do here today, the thoughts that resonated with me was just that the quote that says that justice too long delayed is justice denied. And when you think about the fact that we have been having the conversation of slavery in America for more than 400 years, to have yet another conversation, to have classes, programs, and these types of things, like sticking somebody or stabbing someone in the back with a knife, pull it out a quarter of the way, and then we call that progress. I'm just hopeful that we will be able to have far more radical conversations. And when I say radical conversations, I'm talking about with a sense of urgency to remove those things. And do understand, if anyone has it twisted, that slavery and imprisonment are two different things. Imprisonment is just isolation from society. Slavery is all of the things that you do to dehumanize the person that has transgressed or that has been accused of transgressing. If we, as the most civilized country on the face of the planet, have not reached a point after 400 years of this same discussion that we need to be having far more radical conversations about the removal of the exception clause in our 13th Amendment, then we are just doing what I mentioned in the form of the quote, we are continuing to delay a justice that is too far long denied. And I'm just hopeful that we'll be able to get to that space where we can really start to facilitate change in the ending of something that is, like I said, that has gone on for far too long.
Before we applaud our panelists and go to reception, I would not be an advocate if I did not say, particularly since I know who's in the audience, that this is World Political Prisoner Day, and I just received this email from the Leonard Peltier Committee, who is encouraging Leonard Peltier, who is an indigenous Native American political prisoner, been in prison since the early 70s. They're calling on all justice-loving people to contact the Senate and the Department of Justice to demand that Leonard Peltier receive an urgent medical transfer to FMC Rochester, where he will be in proximity to his homeland's family and is consistent with BOP policy. So I just want to say, longest held political prisoner in the United States, and whether you agree with that designation or not, time is enough, okay? And for him to be in prison all of those years, and I just want to say one more thing, because they do call it death by incarceration. So many of our people have come home, former members of the Black Panther Party, but they've come home to die. Mutulu Shakur, Dr. Mutulu Shakur, came home thankfully through the efforts of some people I won't even say, but died shortly after. Michelle McGee was Angela Davis's co-defendant, came home after, 60-something years, I don't know, but he came home and he died, and so many others. Let's not let that happen with Leonard Peltier, because these are the homelands that we're residing on right now, the homelands of his people, okay? So I just wanted to say that.